Testing. Right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go from bland to industry leading brand. If you tuned in live, go ahead, put your flames in the chat and let us know where you're listening in from. I have with me, as usual, the king of branding himself, Mr. Shaan Rais. And today we're speaking about speaking.
Second, we're about to come right in. Okay, great. Okay, so guys, we are live everywhere across multiple channels again. So LinkedIn, Voice, Aisha, Sasha, Phenomenal Morning, IG, Phenomenal Morning, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, multiple places on Facebook, and multiple places as well on LinkedIn. So the topic today is speaking. Is that the case?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So building a personal brand through your oration, your ability to speak articulately, punctually, right? Pronunciation plays a part in that. Pronunciation plays a part in that. How can you also watch this? Every time you open your mouth, your personal brand comes out. How's that? Every
Yeah.
time you open your mouth, your personal brand comes out. Let's talk about it.
Shaan, as you were saying that, something just came to mind.
And
Literally just came to mind. The five P's of speaking.
talk about it. Remind everybody what those five P's are.
I don't know what they are. I literally just came up with it. When you said punctuation,
Ah,
and then you said something else with P. So I'm thinking punctuation. Pers-
pronunciation.
that's right. So pronunciation, presence, personality, power, and something else. The
I
last
would
P.
say, I would say, I would have to say pros. I would
Pros.
have to say pros. So tense, right? When you speak, what tense do you use? It's so funny that you say that because I was literally looking over a book today. And I'm talking about early this morning. Early this morning. I know it's 7 o'clock, guys, but I'm not like everybody else. So I'm up like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was getting the work done early in the morning. And I'm looking over a book that had been given to us, returned to us. It was supposed to be finished editing. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, nope, nope. And I'm just checking off things and correcting things and fixing things because everything goes so. Watch this, guys. As a CEO, you are the curator of your brand. You hand things off, you delegate to elevate, right? You delegate to elevate, stay in your zone of genius. However, when things come back on a conveyor belt, you sign off on it as the CEO, as the curator, as the last person that sees what is going to then represent your personal brand. So I give the work away, the work comes back before it's released to the public. And as I'm going through the iteration, I'm like, nope. And it's because of tense and prose. Tense and prose. So tense and prose is forms forms of speaking and tense. So past, present, future. You want to make sure that you're in the right tense because, guys, listen, timing is everything in speaking. Timing is everything. Everything that you say is everything that you think is not meant to be said. And you want to think 5 to 10 times before you speak. Some people just like to hear themselves talk. And then, a lot of people will say, well, Shaan, how do you not script if that's the case? How do you say to think 5, 10 times before you speak and you don't write it down, like you don't script it? I have been playing chess since I was like 7. My father taught me how to play chess. So I think strategically. I'm always thinking or seeing things in 3D as far as what should come next, how is it going to land, and what result is going to come from it, right? What result is going to come from it. So I'm able to play the game at this level, speaking in the present, but looking at it from, so I see it before I say it, and then I look forward to see how it's going to impact in the future.
Yeah, that's a super powerful. You know,
Tense
when we
and
were Yeah. When we were about to come on, I had a thought, and I want to ask you this as the first question. When it comes to speaking, for someone to effectively communicate their thoughts, is it a thing of adding on? Like, is there a skill, an additional skill or competency that you need? Is that the case, or is it the case of you letting go of a few things? Number one, something like fear, for example. Um, Fear of what people will think about you, for example. So the ability to effectively take a thought and communicate it using your voice, is it a question of you adding on something, or is it a question of you taking off something?
I would have to say both. I would have to say both, right? And the reason why I would have to say both is because yes, you have to take away fear. That's a fact. You can't, and the way you take away fear in the right spirit, in the right manner. Phenomenal morning to cool. I see you, brother. The best way to do this, and shout out to everybody watching on IG, LinkedIn Voice, LinkedIn Live, Twitter, YouTube. Watch this. Servant leadership. Servant leadership is the way you continue to provide value and have your focus and your heart in the right place, have your attention in the right place. When I speak, I'm not concerned with how I look. And a lot of people are self conscious, they lack self confidence and self esteem. And the reason why they poke these holes and exonerate or magnify their imperfections is because they care more about themselves than the people that they are serving. They care more about themselves than the people that they are serving. So that's the first part. That's what you have to take away. Take away your selfishness and become selfless. I love what Bruce Lee said about be like water and become formless. When you become formless, you're actually able to be direct and strike immediately without concern for the form, right? So you're always in the perfect present tense when you're formless or selfless and you're serving from a place of servant leadership. So that's what I would say you have to take away. What I would say that you have to add to yourself to be effective as a speaker is the latest and greatest, the newest and the truest. So what do I mean by the latest and the greatest, the newest and the truest? You have to stay up to date on current events and reality. Like you have to be able to learn at the speed of thought because yesterday's truth will not be tomorrow's reality. It's not always that case. Information changes, and when you don't stay up to date, when you don't read every day, when you don't study every day, then your stage presence, your presentation becomes antiquated and outdated.
Hmm. That's really powerful. And a lot of speakers that I see, I notice that they're always up to date with different things going on the news. And I
Hold
noticed,
on,
I
hold on,
noticed,
hold on, hold on. I'm sorry, Junior. I'm sorry, Junior. Somebody just said something. I gotta point that out. You hear this? You hear this cat? Nah. You hear this, bro? He said he gonna have to bust out the portable chess set in Myrtle Beach. Let's go. Let's go. Yes, I agree 1000%. I have like five of them in different places strategically within my home. So I'm always reminded of strategy, war, business. So yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit of levity
yes, sir.
there.
Yes, sir. All right. Sean, we're actually due for the first break. So let's go ahead and take that, guys. When we come back, more on speaking.
I
Stay
said,
tuned.
I said, I said, you hear this cat?
It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
He's extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle. I said Shaan Rais. I'm proud. That's Shaan Rais. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. Listen, if you haven't shared this out already, for the shame. For the shame, guys, share this out. Share this out. Let the people that follow you know what you do and what you're about early in the morning. That's what this is.
Yes, sir. Yvette says something. Let me just highlight. So she says, Shaan says to quit your job mentally. I felt that.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be locked in. You don't want to be tied to it. You know, I was thinking yesterday, I was somewhere, I don't remember exactly what the context was, but the content of my thought was the elephant and the thimble. The elephant and the thimble. So when an elephant is born, they tie it to a thimble, to something like a little small needle in the ground, like a nail. And of course, the elephant's a baby, so it can't move. It can't pull the nail out of the ground because it's a baby. It can barely move at all. As that baby elephant gets older and older and older, now you got to remember the first traumatizing and the first conditioning. So as that elephant gets older and older, they continue to tie the rope around the elephant's leg and put it on a little thimble, a little needle, a little small little railroad stake at the worst. Best case scenario, like this, that's as big as it gets. And the elephant doesn't move. He doesn't leave the small circle that the bit of rope gives him to move in tandem to the needle. And that's how a lot of employees are. That's how a lot of us are. We get a job and we're like, oh, I finally made 50K. I finally got $50,000. And we stay right there because in our minds, we're lucky to have the 50. But the reality is you got to give in the 50. You got to sacrifice the 50 for the 100. And you got to sacrifice the 100 for the quarter. And you got to sacrifice the quarter for the half and sacrifice the half for the whole.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That sounds Yeah, that's a lot of wisdom there. Shade says, I didn't listen to the mentally part.
Most
Man,
people don't. Don't feel bad. Most people don't. Most people don't catch it. You want to try to really unpack what I say because everything I say exists on 3 dimensions. There's 3 levels to everything I say.
Shaan, when you're on stage, first of all, as a speaker, and I heard somebody say this, right? I heard somebody says that the tail of a good speaker is the ability to communicate and make you feel as if they're talking to you, like you're the only person in the room when they speak. Do you agree with that? Or do you feel like, I mean, you're talking to everybody, so what's the point? Do you feel like a great speaker has the ability to make, even if they're talking to 1,000 people, right? Let's say 2,000, 5,000 people.
Yes, sir.
When you listen, you feel as if you're the only person in the room.
You could close your eyes and be the only person in the room as long as the speaker knows their audience. And that's why we take people through the 5W framework. And that's why we're so deep on who is your ideal client and know your audience. You have to know your audience. So when I go, watch this, when I go speak somewhere, I send a form maybe 90 days in advance to find out all of the factors of the audience: demographic, age, income, education. I want to know all of those things. I want to know who I'm speaking to. I want to know what their pain points are. I want to know what the level of education is. I want to know how much money they make. I need to know the audience because I need to know the lay of the land so that when I speak, what I say is heard by everyone in the way that I mean it to be heard. Now, I can do the personality piece and speak to the I, the D, the S, and the C. That's me, no problem at all. But I need to know in general what is the audience. Am I speaking to an audience full of secretaries, for instance, admin professionals? Am I speaking to people who have a master's degree level of education because my language may change? Or is it up and down? And if it's up and down, that's fine too. I'm going to keep it centered as opposed towards leaning to a specification.
Right. So what I meant, let me give you some more context on that question, right? So what I meant was, let's say you go to see a motivational speaker do his thing, right? When you're in that space, there's this nice little zone, right? Where you feel like that person he's been able to connect his thoughts and his speech so well that he's literally telling your story. And for a moment, you don't have to close your eyes, but it's like you're the only, you don't see anybody else around you, right? So you don't see anybody else around you. And then when people start clapping, then you snap out of it. And you're like, yeah, well, obviously, there's people there, but for that moment, like that sort of zone, that little twilight zone there, how do speakers do that? Is that something that you do? Is that something that you think is the telltale sign of a good speaker? Is that something that you incorporate into your speeches?
Well, I didn't do it intentionally, but I know my audience. So you want to know the research, you want to know the pain points. When you speak to the pain points of the audience and you're speaking to the right audience, and again, you know who you're speaking to. You have to tailor your speech to the audience's preference, to their education level, to their aspirations, to their gender. All of these things. You have to be mindful of these things. And when you're able to do that, yes, you're speaking to the heart of the ideal client. You're speaking to the heart, you're speaking to the fears, you're speaking to the hopes. So each individual has their own filter and their own experience. And like I said, the 3D piece. So some people hear it on a superficial level, some people hear it on a deeper level, and some people hear it on an internal and emotional level, depending on their filter and depending on where they're at. That's just the way it is. I remember when I began really speaking kind of publicly, but still in the Zoom before the rooms opened back up. And I was always told I was stepping on toes, snatching edges. I didn't even know what those words meant. I didn't even know what those terms meant. He's stepping on my toes or snatching edges and all of that. that meant that what I was saying was resonating on such a deep level that it was painful.
That's right. Shade says, I slow understanding that some of it is mental. Sean, let's talk about story. So, how important is storytelling when it comes to speaking?
It's everything. It's everything. People used to open their mouths only really to tell stories. So where think about old times, right? When you had to hunt physically for food or you didn't eat. And we always say eat what you kill, right? But that term comes from when you had to hunt for food. So during the day, there wasn't a bunch of conversation. You understand? During the day, it was business. And that's kind of why I like to get up early in the morning and do business 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm not interrupted at all by anyone or anything. I'm able to really get at it and lock time away. So, anyway, going to get after it, there wasn't a bunch of conversation. And when you would come back together with your quarry, you know, with your quarry, with whatever, with your prey, with the food, when you came back with the food from the store of the hunting ground, when you came back, you know, the food would be prepared. And then when you sat down, they would tell stories. They would tell stories. And stories are also how a person's lineage is passed down, how their cultural heritage is passed down, how their stories of the ancestors are passed down. So, story, when it comes to speaking, stories would be the origin of speaking. If you're hunting and you're going to hunt something like back before, you know, we just was very educated and civilized and just sitting down, you know, around learning and everything. When we had to go hunt, we would say I could imagine just stopping someone like don't go down that way. And when they look at you with a quizzical expression, it's like, no, because so and so went down that way. And you know, understand, like the land is quicksand. You'll sink, you'll go into the ground, and it'll be no more. You might use your hands to gesture. Think about it. You use your hands to gesture before you actually formed words. And before that, you would have hieroglyphs and stories on the planet engraved in the walls and in the ground. You can see it from above. When you look down, there's certain circles and landmarks that have been there for centuries. That's a story. When you go into the pyramids and the temples, you see stories on the wall. So before people spoke, they told stories. And when people began to speak, they began to speak in story form.
Nice. Yeah, that was really powerful. That pyramid piece, that was super powerful.
It's
Super
true.
powerful. And it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, why else? Why else would you write something on the wall? It has to be some kind of message. It has to be some kind of message, right?
It tells a story.
That's right. Let's talk about what makes a good story. I could remember and guys, if you haven't gotten branded like a leader yet, in the first half of branded like a leader, we spoke about brand story. So, what are the key elements of a brand story?
You have to have an origin. You have to have a desired outcome. There has to be a perfect situation. There has to be a challenge. There has to be I would say, when I say challenge, there would be a quarrel. There would be a quarrel. Then there would be learning, which increases understanding. And then there would be like the final scene, and then hopefully a phenomenal outcome, and then peace after all.
Wow. So, number one, you have to have an origin, right?
Yes, sir.
So the origin is basically where you're coming from. Basically where you're coming from. Now, what really goes into the actual telling of the story? So I'll give you an example. An example might be a physical location. So for you, you always say, I'm just a young man from Harlem, right? So you start your story in Harlem.
I take you back to the origin.
That's right. So we have a time, we have a place. I notice you say Harlem in the late 80s, early 90s.
That's right.
Guys, I hope you're writing this down. I hope you're writing this down. So we have a time, we have a place.
That's right.
What's the next step? So from the time and the place, what's the next step after that?
I say you don't have to be a historian to know what took place during that time. So I'm introducing the antithesis of peace. Peace is the outcome. So I'm introducing the quarrel. I'm introducing the challenge and the challenger. Because let me tell you, you can't be a hero without an opponent. You have to overcome something. Nobody wants to follow a loser. I really hope you guys got that. People are scared to tell their story, but when you don't tell your story, you're not validated as a champion.
100%. Guys, we're actually due for another break. When we come back, we'll be talking a little bit more about stories. Stay tuned.
Think about that real quick, guys. If you don't tell your story, you don't talk about your challenges, then you're not validated as a champion, and nobody wants to follow a loser or someone who just popped up out of nowhere.
The reason why I did this and what I do is help leaders to become brands and brand themselves. You train people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. I teach authenticity marketing. If people can take advantage of you, they will in your personal or professional existence.
My biggest takeaway just from day one is you are the brand. I would recommend it to anybody that's really looking to build a personal brand.
Just the brand in general has changed my life. I've grown so much since I've been a part of this.
I see myself in what he does, and I believe in it just as much as I believe in myself.
I'm Jackie Miller, and I was really drawn to Shaan's personality from the moment that I did the Branding Like a Leader challenge. This was the free challenge that he offered. And I'm so glad that he offered it because I joined the class and I was blown away. First of all, by his giving personality. For me, it was the personality that really drew me in. But then as he was sharing his wealth of knowledge, I realized that there was so much that I didn't know. I already knew there was a lot I didn't know, but there was so much that I didn't know, and he was just freely giving this information. It was evident that he really wanted to help people, and as somebody who likes to help people, that I connected with that. And then I was able to connect not only with Shaan, but then with his team, with Junior and with Jason, Mr. B, and just the entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond. One day, something had come up, and Junior he texted me just to see how I was doing, and that really touched my heart. So that relational piece is there. So if you were having any doubts about what Mr. Shaan Rais and his team with the brand can offer you, let me let you know. It is a treat and it is a joy, and you will not be disappointed.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you think I played that commercial right there?
You mean the last one?
Yep. And everybody else can put it in the chat too. If you caught it, put it in the chat. If you caught it, put it in the chat. Go ahead, Junior.
Well, I would have to say it's because of Jackie's story, her experience.
Exactly. People are going to have a story. You're writing a story right now. Everybody's writing a story. Your life, your action is being recorded through the steps of time by the people that observe you. right? So when we do certain things, we don't do it in hope that or thinking about or curating the testimonials that follow. A lot of times we just act. But I tell people all the time, when you open your mouth, your personal brand comes out. When you move to and fro, you let people know who you are and what you stand for. Your morals and your principles and your values create that brand that precedes you before you come into the room. And the feeling that people get when they hear your name and know that you're coming, like people feel something, and that's the energy. It's all based on a story. People have a story about you now. Everybody listening to this right now, when the name of you or the thought of you comes up, they have a story, whether good, bad, or untrue.
Very true. Shaan, let's go back to the concept of the enemy, like you were just talking about.
Okay.
So a lot of people in stories, they believe that the enemy is actually a person.
Oh man.
Can the enemy be a person? Is it not? Let's clarify what exactly is the enemy as far as it relates to the concept or the construct of a story.
I want to think of how I want to frame it. Okay, let's look at it through. I don't know who saw Creed. If you didn't see Creed 3, go see it. It's a phenomenal movie. However, in the movie, the enemy of Creed is a kid that he used to know, kid that he grew up with that went to jail and came back home and was a little bit rough around the edges after just coming home from prison. And he challenges him. And, it reminds Creed of when he ran away. See, something happened when he was younger. They got into something and he ran. He fled from a challenge. Challenge took place and he ran away. Now, 18 years later, this guy comes back into his life. He's been the champ. He's not the champ anymore, but here he is faced with the fact that he ran away. So the fact that he ran away is all over this guy's face, all over his energy, all over his spirit. And he gets at him because of it. And the moral of the story is that he had to face his fears, back down his past, and stand up as the man that he is now, as opposed to cower down like the child that he was when he fled. A lot of us are still running from things that happened to us when we was 14. A lot of us are still crying over things that took place when we were 7 years old, things that we couldn't have possibly controlled. Daddy left mommy when I was 7. Boo hoo, woe is me, right? Like as a man, you get over these things. Everybody thinks that their burden is the heaviest, as stated by the late, great Bob Marley. Everybody thinks their burden is the heaviest. Everybody thinks they've gone through the only thing that anybody could pop. Everybody thinks their suffering is different than anyone else's, but everybody goes through their own form of suffering. Everybody goes through their own form of being called to account. Everybody is let down. Everybody's heart is broken. All this happens to every single person on the face of the planet. Every single person, because it's called a human experience. If you're a human, then these are the experiences. These are the collections of your experiences. This will be your story. And everyone will have one, right? So when you're 35, 40 years old and you're trying to impress other people with your story and how bad it was for you, if you're still emotional about it, you kind of make yourself look bad because you're focused on it, and that shows that you're kind of emotional and you never got over it. So I would say go watch that movie just to be kind of called to account and reminded that everybody goes through things.
Shaan, that being said, is it possible to be a good speaker without confronting that enemy? Is that possible?
Well, let me say this, Junior. People would rather jump off the Empire State Building than speak publicly. I mean, literally, quite literally, surprising to me, but quite literally, Phenomenal Morning Tuesday. people would rather jump off the face of the planet if it had edges than speak publicly, right? So you have to come to grips. And watch this. There may not be a challenge in your fear to speak publicly. Those challenges may show up later. So for me, I've always been comfortable speaking. I think speaking was probably one of my coping mechanisms. However, when I met my wife and I chose to really, really turn my life around, I had to face one of my fears. And it wasn't speaking and it wasn't standing up as a man. It was education. One of my fears was education, like literally going to school, conforming to society's box. I did not know where I fit, if I fit, or if I could fit and make sense out of it. So everybody's challenge is their own.
Wow. So for you, it was education.
Yeah, for me, it was education. I promise you, for me, that was my greatest fear. I ran away from it when I was younger. I literally, like Creed, turned around and said, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I said, I can't do this. I'm out of here. And I dealt with life on my own terms. I dealt with it the way I did, didn't make the best decisions. But I'm so glad that it turned out, like I said, the good story has at the end, which is peace. Right. But I couldn't run away because that was the one time in my life where I turned tail and ran like a coward. I'll be honest, I ran like a coward. And in every other place, I overexerted myself because of the lack of compensation for that one spot. So I might have been extremely aggressive, extremely confrontational, speak as loud as I could, maybe basically beat my chest, trying to convince myself. I read a lot of books trying to self-educate myself, and that was fine. I was very proliferate, as you can tell by my language, very animated. I could speak, I could coach then, I could do certain things like boxing. That was another thing for me. I put all the money in the gym and, get into boxing and go work out and all that stuff to prove that I didn't have any limitations. Right. But when my wife came into my life and I was like, hold on, I got to fix this. I got some things I got to go check up on. Like I got to really turn a new leaf and do things differently. When I thought strategically, chess, how am I going to turn this around? I said that the key, and it was hard for me to say it because for me to say it meant I had to deal with it and accept that I had ran away. I had to accept that. As a father, as a husband, I had to accept, oh man, here I am, 30 and change. And the bully that I ran away from in 3rd grade, 7th grade, 9th grade just came home from jail. And it's like, oh man, what do I do? What do I do? Do I run away again and try to just, play it by ear or hustle it up? And for me, the answer was no. For me, the answer was, okay, if you got to deal with it, if they're not going to go nowhere, my life wasn't going to change itself by itself. I had to be an active participant. Guys, write that down. Your life isn't going to change itself by itself. You have to be an active participant in the transformation. The only thing running away is going to do is make it worse. Your problems ain't going nowhere. You want to speak, but you don't know how to. You got to get in speaking like a leader. You making $60,000, you want to make $120,000. You need to get a raise. You need to either go back to school or go into some form of training that's going to give you the skill to put a 0 behind your number. You can't run away. You can't be a coward anymore. We mothers and fathers now. We mothers and fathers. We went from being sisters and brothers to being aunts and uncles and mothers and fathers. How we going to be cowards now, 30 years old, 40 years old, thinking that, there's some mystery that's going to make this stuff better. When we wake up, we're going to really hit the lottery. Like, no, you are the lottery. You are the lottery. And depending on how you show up to this game of life, man, let me tell you. So me anyway, Junior, right? I realized what the problem was. And this is the most beautiful thing about it. I'm glad I brought it all back around. Your problem is not who you think or what you think the challenge is. Your problem, Tuesday, Coach B, Yvette, Travis, Shay, your problem is not the problem you think it is. As men and as women, we don't want to accept that the person in the mirror is the problem. See, the person in the mirror was the problem. The problem wasn't education. It was never education. It was me. I wasn't patient. I wasn't humble. I was arrogant. I was aggressive. Nobody could tell me nothing. I didn't have patience. I didn't have internal peace. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't listen. I couldn't be instructed. I thought I knew everything. I didn't want to take a chance. I was scared to death of failing. That was my greatest fear. That's why I left when I was younger. It was like, nah, if there's a chance that I could lose and it looks like it's probably going to happen, like because I can't really like grasp the algebra, I can't really like grasp the geometry, I'm out of here. I'm gonna put it down, man. I'm not gonna try or transform. And a lot of you are not willing to try or transform. And that's why your life is what it is now. That's why your life is what it is now. But watch this. When you show up and when you grow up, you show up, right? So I wasn't grown, 25. I still wasn't grown. I'm still running. I'm still running. Talk to me about going back to school. I knew it was what I should have did, but I was still like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna figure it out. Nah, I'm good. I'm a man. I'm gonna figure it out. Don't tell me nothing. I got it. I got this. Don't worry about it. And look, almost 10 years later, it still didn't go anywhere. Same bully, same 3 o'clock showdown. I had to show up. I couldn't sneak out the back. I couldn't sneak out the back and hide behind the cars, man. I had to stand up and fight for who and what I believe in and what I love. I had to show up and speak up for myself. And those master's degrees on the wall, this is the most beautiful part of it, Junior. The problem's not the education. The problem's none of that. The problem is you. I was the problem. So watch this, Junior. Watch this. I promise you, this is the biggest part, right? So I earned every degree, all of it. The funny thing is, when I got into the first class, I realized when I really applied myself, because I loved someone who depended on me, when I really applied myself, I said, wow, this is easy. That's what I said. When I really got in there and threw some jabs at it, put some papers in there, wrote a couple papers, and saw what it had to give back, and stood there and saw the feedback from the teachers, I was like, oh, they was like, you great, like this is phenomenal. I had teachers like, nah, like you sick with it, like you crazy with it, like this is unbelievable. The work that you've given us is unbelievable. You're over delivering. And I did it because I had so much passion and so much purpose, and I was so afraid. When you face that fear, when you let go of the fear and you face it, you'll back it down so fast because you don't have anything to lose. You going in there with everything on the wall. So I put everything on the wall, and bruh, that thing, it ran away. You don't understand. I've been in college for the past 10 years. I got like 4 B's. I got like 4 B's in the entire 10 years. Everything else has been straight A's. So when I say I know what I know, whew, bro, like I know what I know. So anyway, every degree I earned, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then working on the 5 and the 6. Working on the 5 and the 6. So I'm working on the doctorate. So I finished I finished all the coursework in the doctorate, the first one, the PhD in organizational development and change, and I start the second one. So now I'm going through the dissertation. This is so deep, brother. It's so deep, right? I promise you, if you bear with me, you're gonna take a gem home. I get into the dissertation stage of the second doctorate, the Ed.D., and I get an email. This when you know you make it. I got an email, and the email was from my administration, and they said, Shaan, They said that you're doing so well and you've blown through the coursework and you've done so much that it has occurred to us that you have since fulfilled the requirements for a master's degree in education. So we're going to confer that upon you at the end of your next term, at the end of the term that you're in now. We're going to confer upon you the master's degree in education. I never came for a master's degree in education, Junior. Guys, if you guys can hear me, like I never came for a master's degree in education. Master's degree in education was the scariest thing in the world. Why in God's name would I go into education? You understand? I went every other way, but I'm not doing the education piece. And because I backed it down to such a degree, they turned around and said, this is yours. And we giving you this. Like you got this. Like you earned this 10 times over. This is yours. And I'm literally me, same kid that ran away, 3rd grade, same kid that ran away, 7th grade, same kid that ran away in 9th grade. As a man, I'll have a master's degree on the wall stating education with my name on it. And I'm getting a doctorate, an ED in leadership. That's an educational doctorate, a doctor of education. You will become a master of that which you're afraid of if you just stand up.
Shaan, let's go to a break. Let's go to a break now.
Business is like a game of chess. It's not checkers. If you don't know how to lead with a personal brand, then you're losing the battle.
Everything about Shaan's talk was fantastic. I mean, I got so much from it.
So he was really bringing fire and passion and just love and spirit to let everybody else know how do you become a leader amongst the leaders.
You hold the key in your hand. There is more power in this phone than there was that took the first man to the moon.
His energy, his dynamic information, gave a really great presentation.
I didn't ask for any money. I didn't have an offer. I had a heart to help people and meet them where they were at and find their need and fulfill it.
Shaan is the bomb.
I don't talk theory. I don't talk hyperbole. I don't talk opinion. Nothing I talk is anything but evidence-based.
During the G Circle retreat in Atlanta, I had the pleasure and the honor of listening to Mr. Shaan Rais. He will not only impact your organization, but he will elevate your team to another level.
When you change you, when you put you into the equation, the whole system is different. I guarantee you, you got the right thing. You are the right person. If you can present yourself in the best way possible, there's no negotiation.
His energy is infectious, and I have so many takeaways from the presentation that I can't wait to get started and implement them today to see the result.
Guys, we're back. Wow. Shaan, that was something else. Guys, I want you to put some flames in the chat for Shaan, number one, for getting that 3rd master's degree. And I think we could safely say that everybody listening, you spoke a little bit to everybody listening, myself included, when you just broke that down a while ago. Yeah, I think you gave all of us here listening today a lot to think about after this live.
You got to stand up, man. I hope so. That's why I speak. Les Brown said, never tell a story without having a point, and never make a point or try to make a point without telling a story. Right? And the reason why I don't script is because it's not written. That's just my life. So I don't have to remember my lines. I don't have to remember my lines. I just have to remember the story, like the reality of it, right? And speaking keeps me in go mode. So I can get a call from anywhere at any time on any corner of the planet. I'm ready to speak. I'm ready to speak. I'm ready to wow the crowd. I'm ready to go. And that's only because I speak. As a speaker, you must speak. If you're a coach, you must coach. If you're a consultant, you must consult. If you're an author, you must write. If you're an educator, you must educate. That's what you have to do to maintain that position. The moment you stop speaking, you're not a speaker anymore. A lot of times, a lot of these speakers aren't speakers, they're thinkers. They think they're a speaker, but they're not speaking.
That's right. And you know what, Sean? I think if you really are who you say you are, and not you personally, just in general, then you're gonna find a way to do what it is you say that you do. Like I could remember for me, one day, and business is so funny, right? One day I said, you know what? That's it. I give up. It's too tough. I give up. And I could remember I went to I put on the TV, right? I started watching some Netflix, and it went to a commercial, not a commercial. It went to like it finished, right? So it went to like the scenes at the end. So I got up and I said, okay, what am I doing next? And I started working. And while I was working, I said, hold on. I thought I just gave up like 10 minutes ago. So I had forgotten that I had given up. I had forgotten. I had forgotten, guys. So trust me, like when something is in you to do, you're going to find a way to do it. If you're a speaker, you'll be at the supermarket and then you'll be speaking to somebody. If you're a coach, just like with you, you say you coach your children all the time. If you're a coach, you're gonna coach somebody without even thinking about it. If you're a consultant, you're gonna consult somebody without them asking for your advice. So it's just something that's just natural to you. If you really are who you say you are and you really do what you say you do, then you're going to find a way to do it.
No question. No question whatsoever. None whatsoever. I want to end on this note. The thing that you're thinking is the problem is never the problem. As a matter of fact, the thing that you think is the problem is the gift. The thing that you think is the problem is the gift. Education was a gift. I absolutely love it. And the hard life that I was confronted with before it pushed me back to that which I love. I just didn't know how much I loved it. And it's so interesting. And I could, recount the story and tell the story, but we'd be here for 2 weeks for me to do it. But I can remember when I loved education. I can remember when I wrote papers so long that they said, Sean, stop writing. Your papers. I remember them sending home notes home saying Sean writes too much in his little answers. Like he would just write and write and write. And then I would get in trouble. And I told you I always had that special seat outside the principal's office for speaking because they would tell me to stop speaking. But the root word of education is to educe, like you said yesterday, which means to bring out of you. So I was in a learning situation and it was coming out of me so much that it was pouring out of me. And like I said, the formal educational system has some very serious problems, especially when you're younger in a poor, deprived neighborhood, because instead of them encouraging my passion, they quieted it up. So if I look back on it, I can see why I said, you know what? I don't like it here. But at the same time, and this is where maturity shows up. Because most people are just saying, oh, it's broken, leave it alone. It's broken. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's why we don't do it. And that's why, the institution is broken. No. The coward and the immature run away from the problem. The adult and the mature fix it. Now that I will have 3 master's degrees and 2 doctorates before it's all said and done, I am qualified to speak to the necessity to fix the problem. Mm-hmm. So no longer am I a problem, nor am I someone who ran away from the problem that is unqualified to fix or speak on the problem. I was a product of the problem. Now I'm a product of the solution.
Nice. Guys, we're going to end on that note. Listen, guys, this has been Breakfast with the Brand. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think tomorrow is actually marketing. Tomorrow is Thursday, right?
Yes,
That's
it
right.
is.
We'll be talking about marketing, guys. 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shaan, before we go, can you put up the link for the Leadership Live deep dive?
Definitely, definitely. Guys, don't come back here by yourself. I'm serious. Like, don't come back here by yourself. Bring someone with you. If you're getting fed, if you feel like you're getting some food and you're getting some wisdom and you're getting some understanding and you're getting something that's going to raise your life, I do this for free. If it's free for me to feed you, then it's free for you to bring someone with you. It's free for you to help someone else. It's free for you to tell someone about it. Everybody say they want to be the coach, but they don't want to coach. Everybody say they want to be the speaker, but they don't want to speak. Speak on the stage that you're given, and you just might be given a stage.